and then Frank.
So,
And speak up.
Was there any evidence of these informants, employees being monitored, surveilled, wiretapped, any of those kinds of things? And secondarily, were any of those visas or whatever these applications that were rapidly put through, were any of those then rechecked, or is it even possible to recheck to kind of capture them?
On the surveillance question, no one actually had. Well, actually, there is one example of surveillance, but most of the sources that I spoke with, including Christina Poulos, did not mention that they felt that they were being, monitored or surveilled. The one instance was someone who was suspected of violating the worker compensation law. I think it's a little bit of a separate issue. But in terms of, if there's been any checks after the fact, the fraud assessment reports that I spoke about were mostly of visa petitions that were approved. So the visa holders, the immigrants were actually in the country, had their petitions approved. And so, when you talk about 1/3 fraud rate on intercompany transfer, I think all or more than half, I can't remember the breakdown for each of the different fraud assessments, were of petitions that were actually already approved. So, if you take that as a statistical sample, then you realize that, that's a enormous number of fraudulent visas that have been approved.
And they're not going to be pulled back?
I think that, this is just a small statistical sample, and actually, for this, they would then maybe refer it to, I think, INS, which obviously has a very full, or ICE, sorry, which obviously has a very, full plate. But I think that even in these fraud assessments, they didn't make it to the step where they would then refer all those cases and, make sure that it's fraud.
Right. Sarah, monthly reporting. You were reporting during the time that the Republican primaries were heating up in January and February. So my question is simply this. It seems like I don't remember any of the Republican candidates bringing this up as an opportunity to hit the Obama administration on putting the national security at risk, for incompetency, and even to cover up on the fraud. So my real question is, was because of countervailing power within the Republican Party to the powerful economic interests for H-1 and other visas, do you think that suppressed any of their opportunities, or they just weren't confident?
Well, I'm not really sure. This story didn't get a ton of pickup, although it did have, it definitely had, some impact on the, policy level, I think. But I should note too that if you actually look at the approvals for USCIS, it seemed like the approvals were around 90% during the Bush administration, and then there was a huge drop around the economic crash. And then now under the Obama administration, so a big drop, I think, around 2007 to 2009, there was a big spike in denials. So the approval rate actually has just now matched what it was under the Bush administration. So I think that each administration, I don't really want to get too into the politics of it, but I think, yeah, they have their interest in various types of visas, but this isn't. I don't think that this is an issue that's particular to the Obama administration.
In the back, yes, sir. Okay, Steve. Go ahead.
Actually, I just wanted to answer the question that you posed before. You said something which was, I can't understand why preserving the integrity of the process is so much related to your general view on immigration. Should there be more or less of it? In other words, it's mostly the people who want less of it who tend to want to preserve the integrity, and the people who want lots of immigration don't seem to care very much. Just to understand, the reason partly for that is that if you step back, it's probably not possible to have this level of legal immigration and have a thorough vetting of applicants and so forth. And the people who want lots of immigration get it. So get that. So what they want is a very slipshod system so they keep the numbers very high. If you actually follow the law, the numbers would necessarily have to decline. And that's why they don't really want to follow the law. They want a lot of political pressure. They want it to be quick. probably because they don't think that law really matters very much, and it's all sort of an arbitrary government restriction, and these people have a right to come, and all that ideology behind it. So that's the reason. So people who want expansive immigration, it turns out also want a slipshod system. In theory, it wouldn't have to be that way, but as a practical matter, it does pretty much have to work out that way, unless you were prepared to actually dump the resources that are necessary.
Well, I think that that was the point that I was trying to make with the transformation system, the digitization system that is, definitely a priority of the Obama administration, because they realized that it's actually, not possible to have an amnesty measure without it. So, there is an understanding of, I think that on both sides of the debate, there's some level of understanding of the how security and integrity of the vetting process benefits, either side.
Jerry?
Sarah, could you talk about the involvement of the former USCIS Chief Counsel, Roxana Bacon, in the situation you described?
Oh, yeah, that was a topic of one of my stories. What do you mean specifically about the involvement?
Well, it wasn't quite clear on the extent of her apparent attempts to manipulate a process involving the University of Arizona, and I noticed that she has resigned.
Yeah, she has.
Or did that settle?
Well, I think that in the story, I did say too that she resigned, but at the time that she was that she resigned, she was facing possible criminal charges in that matter of the conflict of interest investigation. Yeah, I think the internal documents that I had showed that the criminal charges that were being considered were dropped because, and didn't say because she resigned, but when she resigned, that they were dropped. But yeah, I mean, I think that, Roxana Bacon, from my reporting, was an example of someone who, has a background as an immigration attorney who was pushing, again, for a much more open-handed interpretation of the immigration law, and had, definitely clashed with a number of people, particularly at the California Service Center, who handle the O visas and a lot of the other business-based visas. And some of the documentation and the email chains that I received showed just how frustrated she was, and how she was trying to put pressure on them to approve a petition. Particularly, I think the conflict of interest investigation arose because one of the petitions that she was pressuring them on was for the University of Arizona, which she has a lot of ties to. So. I think that conflict definitely was a catalyst that led to a lot of the leaks, because it did create a lot of internal strife, particularly in the California Service Center. And I think that that then those employees who were upset about it, who complained, then I guess felt that they were getting penalized for that, and so then started leaking more and more documents. So definitely was sort of a catalyst for the rest.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned retaliatory investigations being conducted against whistleblowers. What was the general nature or thrust of such retaliatory investigations?
In terms of the topics of the investigation, or... I mean, the thing is that it's hard to tell why investigation has been initiated. So, I have to be careful. The perception of the people who were being investigated was that it was in retaliation, for something that was unrelated to the reason why they were being investigated. I mean, I think Ms. Poulos had said that, she felt that she was being investigated for, extremely frivolous things. She said that after she was demoted, essentially, she had a lunch with her staffers, and I think that they each put in like $1 or something like that. And, she says that she was investigated for that. So a lot of really, frivolous matters that we're paying for as taxpayers.
In general, these investigations are just a way to get something going on. If you had some Pat McDonough, they actually had a guy following him around. And in the city of Chicago, if you worked for the city of Chicago, you got to live there. And he did. But his ex-wife didn't. and they had a guy following him around. He went to his ex-wife's house. They got photos of him going in and out. They go, aha, we caught you. You don't live in the city. And for 3 months, he had to prove that he didn't live in the city. They'll find anything. And it's a way to discredit you. That's the most important thing. You know, Dr. Sunlight's a great example. The guy's crazy. Obviously, we don't need to wash our hands. They'll find any reason to investigate you. It has nothing to do with what she was working on. They're just looking for a reason to get rid of you.
Yeah.
Let's take one more question, so Sarah can make it back to New York. Yes,
Okay.
Jen?
Yeah, I haven't had the opportunity to deal with the fraud shop at USCIS in a really, really long time, since I was on the 9/11 Commission staff, and I would talk to them extensively then. But Don Brichetti at the time was trying very hard to transform that into a place that really created statistics on fraud, because it was the thing that INS could never do. It never knew how much fraud was in the system. However, because they're not a law enforcement entity at all, that was stripped of them when they went to DHS, as you said, they can only refer fraud cases to ICE. So at this point, after seeing internal documents, et cetera, and talking to them, what do you see as the value added of the anti-fraud shop that they have at USCIS now? Because I'm not sure what it is other than to crunch statistics, because as you said, they're not letting the reporting out, and they're not doing investigations, and they're not even doing referrals to ICE. So what do you see from your bird's eye view on it?
Well, you know, I think that Don Brichetti, was extremely frustrated that the fraud reports weren't released, and I think that he believes that there should be more of them, and I think that there still is the potential with that unit to have more fraud assessment. So I don't think that the existence of the unit itself is the problem. I think there's definitely more potential there, and I think it's something that the administration that they claim that they have put a lot more resources and a lot more staff into the fraud unit. I know that if immigration service officer, for example, suspects fraud, then they refer it to the fraud unit, and the fraud unit investigates it. So they do have like a very active role in the sort of routine approval process. And I think that one of the issues that was raised in the OIG report, though, was the lack of communication between the service officers and the fraud officers, that once a case is referred to the fraud officers, the service officers are not able to, and in fact are discouraged from having communication with the fraud officers. And, I think that there's potential there, and the report noted, and I think that even that Mayorkas agreed that there's potential by increasing, communication for better performance on both ends, and for service officers to be trained in fraud detection practices so that they can get better at detecting on the front end. So, I think there's definitely more potential, but it is a relatively new unit. It's only since 2003, I think. Yeah.
It's new with the creation of USCIS.
Right. Yeah.
To do it the way they're doing it, which is automated, et cetera. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
With new software.
So. Okay.
Well,
Thanks.
I want to congratulate Sarah. She was actually nervous about speaking in front of a group, so I think she did a fantastic job. And thank you to Mike for his comments. I don't think I knew the story about the guy with the washing the hands. That's actually a great whistleblower story. Thanks to all of you for coming. We're going to have a video and transcript of this up, I don't know, maybe next week or sometime soon. Our office is a total disaster because we just moved, so it may take a little longer. So if you want to see it all over again, you're free to be able to do that. All of our other information is online at cis.org. And while Sarah has to run, I think Mike is here to be accosted, and the rest of us, if you want to come up afterwards, but I want to respect people's time in case, I don't know, somebody has a job or something to go to. Anyway, thank you very much, and hope to see you at our next event.